I just thought, I can't walk away from this dog because he's not what I had in my head. So I said yes.
You're listening to the That Dog podcast, the show that brings you life lessons from dogs, shared by the people who love them most. I'm your host, Harriet Alexander, here to discover another That Dog story. I am absolutely delighted to be welcoming Anita to the podcast today. Anita is the owner of Woofs to Kitties in London, which is a natural pet store and groomers. And I used to live about 10 minutes from her shop. And oh my goodness, I seriously miss it. Anita has such a genuine passion for the welfare of animals, and everything she selects and stocks is done with such care and consideration. So I loved having a place I could send dog training clients to that I trusted 100%. And Anita was also incredibly supportive of me when I started out on my dog training journey. So Anita, welcome to the show. And it's so lovely to have you here.
Well, it's lovely to be here, and thank you for such a lovely introduction.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I feel really honoured to have been asked to be on this podcast, and actually rather excited to talk about my dogs, because
it's always
as you
nice,
know, we work with dogs and we're always talking about our clients' dogs, so it's actually great.
Brilliant.
To talk about mine. Yeah.
Can't wait. Yeah. Before we do that, you mentioned previously that you've been animal crazy since birth and that it was often a source of worry for your parents. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh my God, like climbing out of a window in a house in the south of France onto the street when my parents thought I was asleep. And the next thing they know, there's a weird knock at the door and it's me covered in scratches. Obviously, I'd seen a cat and the cat didn't want to talk to me. I think that's the most extreme. But they bought me a dog when I was 4. I had chicken pox, actually. I can remember it like weirdly, like it was yesterday. And they got me out of bed because they wanted to show me. And I could see they were both so excited. And I didn't know what the hell. I was sick and what are you doing? And there was a box with holes in it. And there was a Cocker Spaniel puppy in the box. So
that's a good chicken pox present.
Sure. I mean, my dad loved dogs, and I think, it was his excuse to do it, really. It started young. And my work life, to be honest, I changed my career because I was a fashion buyer and I was away a lot. And I knew I couldn't have dogs. So I changed my career because it was so important to me.
I think it's always a strong sign if you're engineering your life to have as many dogs or to have dogs at all.
Animals. Whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. I love all animals.
What prompted you to start Woofs to Kitties?
Well, I was at a crossroads in my life and I started the dog grooming business in a van, which was interesting. And I remember one day I was driving, I'd met Winky and I was learning about all the natural side of things, a different attitude towards your dogs. And I just dreamt, I just would love to have a place where people could get all that stuff. And I had this vision of this groomers with what it is actually, with lots of really nice things for dogs that are healthy and that are good for the dogs, not just as far as eating, emotionally. And I'm just really passionate about helping people to give their dogs a happy life. I don't think I have the patience that you guys have to be a dog behaviourist, and I admire you guys because I know you get into situations where I would find it really hard to be diplomatic. And I think what I do is a way of doing it in a slightly different way, but I support the work that you guys do. It's not like a pet shop where you walk in, you buy something, you pay. We're always there to talk to our clients, to help them, to support them. We give new puppies a gift pack, which includes chews, so people can see how important they are for their lives. It's not your normal average pet shop.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that, for sure. And that relationship, I think, can be so valuable between different professionals in the industry, that you do have people you can refer people onto. I think that's really helpful.
And also talk through stuff about, because,
absolutely.
Who understand, because we're coming at it from different angles, but they can understand that.
And so You're That Dog. I'm excited to hear about them. So can you tell us who You're That Dog is and how they came into your life?
So my That Dog is my newest member of the household. I have to honour, before I start to talk about him, Boo, Madame Boo Boo, who is a very special little, I was going to call her mongrel. No one uses that word anymore, do they? She's a Bostipu or a Boodle, but she's actually a cross between a Poodle and a Boston Terrier, and was an accident. And she's 9 years old. And I guess she's not that dog because she's just been easy from the beginning. She's just easy dog. I've had her since she was 8 weeks old, and her role in the world is head of security at the shop, and for me in the park, and for my old boy Obi. So that's big. I can't not honour her because she's my mentor. She's just super special. But Theo is my rescue that I got. In fact, in 2 weeks, it's his first anniversary of me getting him, and
good timing.
I know. Yeah, it's an amazing milestone. So basically, I lost my beautiful Obi, who was a German pointer, in July, 14th of July last year. Sorry, I still. And I lost him in lockdown, and it was a horrible time for all of us. But sitting here at home, there was a massive hole because he was a big personality. And after about 2 months, I thought, well, I'm just going to start looking because it takes time to find a new dog. And I wanted a rescue. Rescues here didn't have many dogs. It was really hard to get rescues here during COVID. I've had German pointers for 30 years. I have, I guess, evolved in my attitude to what dogs I have. I love dogs. I wanted a German pointer type, let's say. If it wasn't the full pointer, it didn't matter. And also, I think I had such a special relationship with Obi. I was open to it not necessarily being a full pointer. I didn't want it to look like him at all. Anyhow, so I started to look on international rescues in the Mediterranean, because in the Mediterranean, they're very big on hunting. I love hunting type dogs. I love their joy of life. I love the fact that when you go for a walk, they're off, they're busy, the joy that they have. I just love walking with that type of dog. I was having no luck. And I will say, I did not want to get a puppy. I was not willing to get a puppy because of the madness of puppy buying during COVID. And I could see it. I could see the dogs that were coming into my shop. And I've had rescues and I've had dogs from puppy, and it just felt really like the right thing to do. I started to mooch around, and what had happened is the people who were looking for puppies here and couldn't get them, or didn't want to pay $3-4 or whatever, had gone to look elsewhere. I'd looked at a few pointers and I'd sending forms and nothing was coming back. I just thought, what will be, and the right thing will happen when it's right. It seemed to be a scramble for every dog, and I didn't want to be part of a scramble. Do you know what I mean? I just thought,
it's a big decision. You don't want to feel this rush or this pressure.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm just going to go with the flow. I wasn't in a rush. I was very much mourning Obi. Well, I thought I wasn't in a rush. Anyhow, and then I came across this rescue. They put a video up. These are all on Facebook. There's loads of rescues in the Mediterranean. There's many hunting breeds and scent hounds. And if they're no good, they dump them. If they're lucky, they get dumped, because some of them, they do horrific things. They will kill the dogs if they're no good to them. So that's why I was looking there. And anyhow, they put this video up, and this rescue in Cyprus. And it was a video of just a dog. You couldn't see the size of it. It looked a bit pointerish. And I just messaged the lady and I said, oh, is that a pointer? And she said, no, it isn't. And I told her what I was looking for. She said, oh, well, we don't have a pointer, but we have this dog. So she sends me a picture of Theo, who is beautiful. I think he's a gorgeous looking dog. I'm like, okay. And they just said he was a crossbreed. And then she said he's been here 14 months. And they had loads of videos of him. I couldn't get a shutdown rescue. He had to come to work with me. So I couldn't have a dog that wouldn't be able to cope with that. I'd fill in the form, like she knew what I did and stuff. And then I saw all these videos of him. He's good with dogs. He loves people. You could see he was great with kids. And then he'd been there 14 months. 14 months. And she said, I don't understand why no one's picking him. And I think it's because he wasn't obvious. He didn't fit into a box or whatever. And I just thought, I can't walk away from this dog because he's not what I had in my head, because he's a beautiful dog and he's obviously has a beautiful temperament. So I said, yeah. And then the next thing is she goes, oh, I think I might get, this is on Friday night. So I'm thinking it's going to take 3 or 4 months. And she said, oh, there's a flight a week on Sunday. I think we might be able to get him on it. I was like, what? And that threw me because I couldn't say no because of the length of time he'd been there and go, well, I'm not ready. I just thought that poor dog. So I said yes. I rang Winky and I was like, oh my God. I sent her a picture and I said, just said yes to this dog and he might be here a week on Sunday. I was like, oh my God. And then 10 days later, Theo arrived. So it's funny because you're so excited. You're like, oh my God, I'm getting this dog. And then the dog obviously arrives and then he was just looking around going, what the hell? Because he's been through a flight. They got stuck in cargo for 4 hours. The flight was delayed, which is all quite stressful because I knew it was all going on. Yeah. So he arrived. He's an amazing dog. You know, I was thinking about it before we started this and I just thought all the dogs I've had, it's like life, isn't it, have got me to where I am today. My first pointer, I loved him to bits, but he was a complete plonker, naughty. He lived his own life. And I always used to joke, he didn't realise I was his owner till he was about 6, which is when he started to slow down. But I quite liked him and I absolutely adored him. Yeah. I mean, he was naughty till the day he died and he really was super naughty. And I also had Tosca, who was just very sweet. She was a rescue, very sweet, very easygoing. And then Obi, and I think Obi taught me love, the depth of love that a dog gives you. I'm not into controlling dogs at all. Never have been. I'm not into a dog that I point at his bed and actually Boo does that, but I've never taught her that. She's learned it organically. But you know what I mean? I just like dogs to be happy, to be free. And that's an interesting situation when you get a dog that arrives who is seriously stressed out and wondering what the hell happened to my world and probably had never lived in a home.
Yeah,
because he was found in the street. I Googled hound straight away because I could see he was a scent hound. And I'm like 99.99% sure he's actually a tree and walker coonhound because it turns out that they're bred in Cyprus. I mean, which is really odd because you can't get them anywhere apart from the States. Because I Googled hounds after I saw the pictures and I thought, oh my God, if you look at a picture online of a tree and walker coonhound and Theo, they're identical. Then we've had one that's come in the shop who's from the States and she went, that's a tree, anyhow. And he climbs trees as well, which is hilarious. He does that. They're called treeing because they chase raccoons up trees. And he actually literally will try and climb up trees, which people stop and go, what dog is that?
What is he doing?
Yeah. And apparently it's quite dangerous because if there's branches, they will try and climb up the branches and they can actually hang themselves on their collars because obviously then if so it's not... It's fine in parts with low-lying branches.
Maybe not but in central London could be an issue. So he arrived, obviously, and you said he looked pretty terrified. How did you feel in that moment?
I wanted to hug him and say it's all fine, but I knew I just had to be there, but not smother him because who was I to him? I was this weirdo woman who's suddenly taken his lead. Who's never met me before. Winky, bless her, came with me because she's done a few deaths with me. And I said to her, I think it's about time you do something happy with me rather than just the end of life. So I was in the back with him and he was looking around. You could see he was present and he was cleaning himself. And Winky was like, that's great that he's aware of his surroundings. And then it was weird. I got him home and he was looking at me and I was looking at him. And you've got the stranger in your house, haven't you? He was beautiful. He seemed very sweet, but you're like, you could be a complete nutter for all I know, because they look at you in a way and you think, well, this could be interesting. And Boo was like, what the hell? Who is this? And initially I just let him get on with it. It's all been about him. It's all been about him voluntarily settling into the household, I guess.
For people who are listening as well, I just thought I'd clarify who don't know Winky, because I think she'll be a part of this story in a way. So she's a dog trainer in London that we both know very well.
Yeah, exactly. And a lovely friend. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was at home with him for 3 days, and he took about an hour and a half, 2 hours to come into the flat. I got a courtyard which has 2 entrances into the flat, and he just was walking between one door outside to the other and just looking at us. Then he came in I mean, he's eaten fine from the beginning. And of course, he gets a fantastic selection of chews on tap, which all my dogs do. It just takes time. Initially, you think, I should love this dog to pieces the minute they walk in. I mean, I love dogs, but suddenly you go, okay, we'll just have to see how we mooch along and how it goes. The most interesting part of it was walking him. That's been the biggest learning curve of it all, or being dragged around, falling flat on my face. Saw a squirrel and I was holding on to oh my God. So he arrives in London from rural Cyprus. So there's a lot to deal with, bless him, a lot to deal with. Every motorbike, scooter, electric scooter, pedaling scooter. What else makes big noise? Oh, planes are good ones to bark at. And he barks at the vapor trail of planes, which he still does, which is different. So every noise he was reacting to, understandably, totally understandably. So walking him was, it was quite stressful. I'll tell you the total rookie mistake that I made. You go, what was I thinking? So I'd had him a week and I'd taken him to Battersea Park. And actually, when I first got him, because I had some time off, it was quite quiet. I was going during the day. And he'd probably never seen a lush green park like that in his life. And then the first weekend I had him, I just didn't think about how busy the park is at the weekend. And I walked into Battersea Park and I literally had a bucking bronco, spinning, barking, crazy dog. And I'd literally just walked in and I think I must have looked in shock. And then I bumped into a friend and she said, I heard this dog barking and I looked over and I thought, oh my God, that's Anita's dog, the one that's been on Instagram. And then she said, I looked up the lead and I saw you holding.
Oh dear.
And afterwards you go, what was I thinking? But
then
I spoke to Winky. I know, I spoke to Winky and she said street walking. And I walked him on the streets. There's less stimulation. There's not that many squirrels and distractions. And just get him used to walking on a lead. I'd say the only training I've done with him is when he pulls, stop, wait for him to turn around, and then we go again. And active training that I've done with Theo, that's probably it. I found some fields where you can let them off in a secure dog walking field, exactly for the situation where you have a dog that you don't feel safe letting off. And those are great, fantastic. Because actually I did let him off once in Battersea Park. That's another funny story. And the first time I let him off in Battersea Park, then he went through a hole in the fence. He was being really good. Then he went through a hole in the fence. I thought, oh my God, he's gone. I ran through this hole in the fence. He was sitting on a guy's lap. He loves people and men he particularly gravitates to. So maybe he had a nice male owner at some point. He's literally sitting on this guy's lap. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I said, no, it's fine. He had a dog. But this 30 kg dog sort of jumps up and goes, hi.
Good thing you like dogs.
But he's just, So I took him to freedom fields so he could have some freedom and run because he was never let off lead at the rescue. I know that. So it's literally 4 months of doing that. And I can tell you that's not my idea of a nice dog walking around the streets on a lead. I knew it was necessary. And a few times winking, I go, oh my God. I kind of think, what have I done? Because he had moments when he would kick off. I actually had sprain in my arm because he's a strong dog, really powerful dog, actually, super agile. And seeing my remedial massage therapist for, to sort out my arms because of Theo's pulling, because it was quite full on. And a few times I thought, what have I done? Not that he wasn't a lovely dog, but that was the biggest challenge, really. Amazingly, in December, Winky and I didn't want to do it on my own, so we went. She said, we need to go to some woods because he's going to want to stay with you in the woods because he's going to need to keep an eye on you. And let him off. And with her dogs, of course, as well. So he was hanging around. Good as gold. Absolutely good as gold. And I was going to say that's gone on from there. But actually, the last few days, he's been a little plonker, really, and decided not to listen to me a couple of times. So back to street walking for a couple of days, back on the lead. He just goes, okay. That's what we're doing. He's excited when we get to the park. or when we go out of town or whatever. He loves it. But he's very accommodating, I would say, actually. People always think you have to tie them out to get them to behave, but actually you have to do the opposite. You have to just decompress. Actually, indoors, he's a very calm dog, I will say that. So that's been the biggest thing with him, has been learning to walk him and trusting him, because his range is ridiculous. Initially, I was like, oh my God, he's so far away from me. But he's a scent hound. That's what he does. He gets his nose down and he circuits me now. Even when he does go off, he knows where I am. I have lost him once. Well, I thought I'd lost him, but he went back to the car and he was waiting by the car. He's not stupid. And I think that's a bit annoying because it makes him a little bit more, not naughty. I don't think it's naughtiness. I think it's just pushes the envelope a bit and just thinks, I'm just going to do what I want because I know where the car is and I know where she is, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. With the rescues, I think that's quite common. If they're so shut down and terrified, once they start to feel more confident, they do start to try out different behaviours and push a boundary and go, oh, what does this do?
Well, that's great.
And I think that's a great sign. It can make people worry, but I think actually I'm usually very relieved when they get to that point.
I remember Tosca, she was a really sweet girl pointer, and she was so well behaved initially, and she was never a naughty dog. But when she started to get cheeky, it was like, yes, she's feeling confident and she's starting to be herself and have a bit of fun, actually, I think it is, isn't it? Because initially they're on best behaviour. There's no question about it. They're watching everything. I mean, he was like watching everything, watching what Boo did, watching what I did, trying to work out how he fitted into the whole thing.
I think if you don't feel safe, you're not likely to express yourself, or fun won't be in the equation. So,
and why should they feel safe?
Yeah,
because he's probably had a bad time. He was found in the streets, skin and bones. I think the rescue is a really, really nice rescue because they rescue what they can cope with. I admire the people who do all that work, because you must want to take every single dog, but you can't always take every single dog because then you can't look after them all. She said to me every night when I shut the gate on his kennel, he looked so sad. And now he has the sofa, dog beds, it's like he's got this he's doing fine. But you can understand when they come here, they're like, and you could see it in his little face, looking around, and it was nearly a little frown on his face. It's quite amazing. That was nearly a year ago, and now he's splattered out here and very relaxed. It's such a joy.
I'd love to, circle back a bit to the walking, because it sounds like that was a big challenge. And I imagine there'd be people that have had a similar challenge. And I know that when a dog's difficult to walk, or it's painful even, it can become a very frustrating thing. You start to almost dread every walk. So do you have any tips around just things that worked, or things that you discovered that made him, I guess, be able to cope better with those walks that obviously were very stimulating for him and probably quite stressful?
I mean, he wasn't interested in treats at all. He's more interested now in treats, I think, than he was. But at that point, he was so wired. And I can remember his face just looking everywhere. He was tense. I think just repetition and doing the same routes. So he was getting used to where he was. I think that probably made a difference. And just perseverance. Winky said, just keep going. And so I just kept going. There wasn't a breakthrough moment. Do you know what I mean? It's patience, isn't it? Actually, that's the word. It was just about letting him assimilate. Gradually, I could see him just start to mellow. And I talked to him. Obviously, I'd talk to him. And if he didn't react, I'd say, good boy. I tried to give him treats, but he wasn't orientated that way. So I guess talking to him and just, it's time. I get people who come into the shop and they've got a new rescue and they go, well, he's been here 3 weeks. He can sit, he can stay, he can lie down. I've thought, oh my God, I've had Theo 6 months. I've not actively taught him to do any of those things. You kind of think, oh my God, am I missing something? It was just not part of what he needed. He didn't need that. The only really active training I've done is just to stop and wait for him to reconnect with me. And that's it. And recall, obviously, when we've been in the fields. But even then, when we went to those freedom fields, I didn't want to spend an hour training him. I wanted him to have an hour of having a nice time and looking at things and being a dog, and looking at horses and initially barking at them. And then the next time we went, we saw horses and he didn't bark at them. He always progressed from where he was. So I knew it was just a case of giving him time. He still runs quite a long way from me. And I still sometimes am like, whoa, that's a little bit far. But he's good as gold inherently, apart from the last couple of days. But when we go, if we're out of town, so he doesn't know where we are, I mean, he is good as gold. And his circuits are much closer to me. And if I stop and sit down, he stays near me, which he didn't initially. He'd still be, off on his scent chasing. Patience, time, letting them be. Less is more, absolutely.
I think the reason I was keen to focus on that, there's two things. I think the first is that, which you're even finding in the net last few days, that it's not linear. You might go forward and then back and then forward. And I think that can be frustrating, but is quite normal. And the second thing is that thing of time and how long it takes. And particularly with the walking, if it's not happening quickly, it can feel like it's not working. And that might be when people resort to maybe equipment that's quite harsh, or things that are going to get a quicker fix, but might not be particularly great for the dog. So I think it's reassuring in a way to hear a story where actually you just push through and you just keep going and celebrate little wins.
This is a big subject for me, because what do? I sell a shop that sells loads of equipment. And I've also had horses in the past. So I guess I look at it with some of the equipment that's used on horses is quite aggressive. And I find it really weird, because I'm seeing equipment that's used on horses coming into the dog world as well. That's actually a great point, because I had moments when I thought, this is when people go, enough is enough. I'm going to go and buy a halter collar that goes around the dog's nose, basically squeezes the nose if they pull, which, if people don't know, they have the biggest, most amazing sense of scent, and you're squeezing one of the most sensitive parts of their body. I've never thought I could do that. And so I've had moments when I thought, okay, so this is where people go. I'm going to try using something. When dogs come for grooming, if they have some of that equipment that basically uses pain to try and inhibit a dog's behaviour, I always tell them. I feel I have to say it because the dog can't tell them. I never put the halters back on now. If people come for grooming, I just give it to them. Choke chains, wow. There is scientific testing now that shows how bad some of these things are for them. And people go, oh, we've been doing it for God knows how many years. It doesn't make it right. That actually has been a huge eye-opener for me, because I do get people come to my shop and go, my dog's pulled me over, so that's why. And I couldn't possibly have used any of that type of equipment on my dog. No way. Because I love him. But people, I think, don't realise that it's painful to them, I think, half the time, because they all have lovely names like Gentle Healer or whatever. I look at the names of the products and, I mean, they're not archaic. Well, some are archaic, actually. Some are archaic, but not all of them. But the words don't describe the way they will make a dog feel, put it that way.
I've definitely had clients who have got to that frustrated point and switched to something more aversive, which is always a bit sad. But I think what often happens, and why they end up coming back, is that it's just treating a symptom of a much bigger cause. And so if Theo, for example, was not coping on walks because he was so overstimulated, so stressed, had never really learnt properly to do those things, then it's not really addressing that problem, is it, to put something on that's going to just restrict movement?
But it's a holistic approach, isn't it? It's not just about what you're doing walking, it's what you're doing at home.
Absolutely.
It's letting them have their space, be where they want to be. I'm very, maybe outspoken, I'm totally anti-cage. I call them cages. They're not crates. They're metal cage. I can't imagine putting a dog that's been through rescue and they say it's going to make them feel safe to be in a cage. No way. How does the logic is beyond me. Sorry, I'm quite outspoken about these things sometimes, but it's just like, I just think this dog has been through real trauma, really. And then a journey for him, which was 24, 30 hours. I think, and then you get them home and you go, oh, here you go, put you in a cage to make you feel safe. It doesn't work for me.
No.
So,
unless the door is open.
Food, exactly. Yeah. And chews, which I'm obviously a huge proponent of. It's funny, when he first came, he just chewed everything. It was just gone. Now it's like, no, I don't like this. No, I don't like that. And we're having that again. Like, isn't my favourite thing in stock anymore kind of thing. It's really funny. He gets fed well, really healthily, home cooked or raw feeding. I just think it's the whole approach. It's love, isn't it? It's them feeling loved and feeling free, I guess, to be who they are. I don't know, that sounds a bit, it's not meant to sound deep or whatever, but just give them freedom to find their way, really. That's what I believe, feeling safe. Feeling loved and feeling safe and protected. All of it's holistic. Because you're building that relationship, the walking becomes easier.
Yeah.
I think it's not just walking, it's everything put together, I think.
Definitely. I'm curious as well, actually, because you had pointers and dogs that I guess operate in that way, as you spoke about earlier. But Theo's a scent hound, which is quite a different thing in many ways. Are there any insights you've had about living with a scent hound that you think would be useful for people to know, or things that surprised you even?
Something that I find really interesting is people go, oh, you can't have that dog in London because they need so much space. I've lived in the country with my dogs and I've lived in London. And actually dogs, they spend the majority of their time sleeping. So as far as having this type of dog in London, what matters is that you walk them. That's what matters. I love walking my dogs. I think it's a huge part of the relationship you have with your dog is walking them and experiencing that together. We walk in local parks during the week, and then at weekend we go for bigger walks further out of town into the countryside. He has a great life as far as the amount of running around and walking and freedom that he gets. I remember when I got my first pointer, the breeder said to me, I think people think you have to walk hunting dogs for like 4 hours, 3-4 hours a day. And I remember this guy said to me, you can walk them for 4 hours a day, but if you start doing that, then you're going to have to carry on doing that. Or you can walk him for an hour a day, which is off lead, perfectly adequate. You'll have a really happy dog. You can do more, but you don't need to do more for the dog. I mean, dogs wouldn't run around for 2-3 hours if they're left to their own devices anyhow. It's just not. It's not what they
to show that that's what they do.
No,
They're pretty lazy, even the energetic breeds.
So I've read up about scent hounds since I've got him. Calmer than a pointer at home or at work. He doesn't get out of bed till I'm getting dressed. All my pointers, as soon as my eyes opened, were like, right, we going now? We off? We going? We going? Are you ready? We going? And this guy is just, he's quite chilled. He goes with the flow as far as that's concerned. They are very friendly, loving dogs. I don't think people realise that. I mean, he's on my lap. He now has this routine at about 9:30. He decides to settle down and that's on my lap. So just quite big dog to have on my lap, but he's really sweet. But when he gets to the park or when he knows we're going somewhere exciting, he's a bit of a nutter, but that's fine. So I think I've been surprised about how much calmer he is actually than the pointers at home. Walking, it's a joy. He's off on a mission and I just enjoy that. Yeah, nose to the ground or trying to climb a tree. I mean, we've got squirrel season about to come here where they're all gathering for the winter. And I'm like, oh my God, this is because this time last year, he was on lead for 3-4 months. But now we're going to be going to the park and there's going to be a lot of squirrels around. It's interesting, isn't it? That understanding the breed and where they come from, what they're about.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you brought up the point around exercise and some of the, I think, misconceptions, particularly around certain breeds. I know I've had a similar thing since getting a Kelpie or Kelpie mix, because the perception is that the herding breeds need to be just worn out constantly and physically or they'll be terrible. People will say to me, oh, it must need a lot of exercise. And I just haven't found it to be true. In fact, too much, and she doesn't cope at all. As long as she gets good sleep, that's a really big one, I think, and I'm just keeping that brain occupied in more enriching ways.
In other ways,
but,
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, because that's what I do with Theo now. I can see when he's getting wired. So what I do to manage it, I go back to street walking and we walk on the streets. And actually the last 2 days, I thought he's getting wired. He's being a bit cheeky and I'm going to do street walking. And he's been calmer at work, much calmer the last 2 days. And he's not had as much walking. And it's funny, isn't it? Because we all think you need to tire them out, but actually it just doesn't work that way. Absolutely doesn't. That's actually probably one of the big lessons from Theo. Less running around. It's that less is more thing. Just curb it a little bit, and then calms down, and then you start again. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not logical. Well, it is and it isn't it? Because when you understand it, the adrenaline and everything, you get why it does not work that way.
It can feel, I think, counterintuitive because of some of the myths really around dogs and what they need. And also, I think we often want to go to the park because it's nice for us, but actually a street walk can have enormous value. It can be a great way to working on those lead skills and that bond and tuning into each other, and also the smells. The streets have great smells. So
do that. I really got that yesterday morning. That I could see both of them were like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Because when they go to the park, they're off, aren't they? Boo just trots along next to me and she goes off, but she's that dog that walks right on your heel. Never been trained to do that, but she just goes off and then gets back in position. But actually on lead, they've both got their nose and they're sniffing, and then one sees the other sniffing a spot and they're together going, oh, that's a really interesting smell. And I agree with you, because like after work, it's nice to go to the park and just decompress a bit, but actually it's not always the right thing to do for them. Absolutely not. And you just have to learn your dog and just watch your dog and be aware, because I know if I kept taking him to the park this week, it would have got to a point where probably wouldn't have lost him, but he probably would have been gone for a little while. That's all quite interesting, isn't it? How important that is. And I actually did think that yesterday. They're really enjoying this sniff around. And you go into dirty bits where there's bins and things. It's like, oh my God, this,
best thing ever.
Smell-tastic for them. Yeah.
It's nice when you see them together too. And I know my guys do this where one sniffs something and the other one's like, oh, what's that? Like they really want to be in on it together, which is quite cute.
And they rush to each other.
I know,
like, what are you smelling? You look like you're really enjoying that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some very good practical things in terms of your lessons from Theo. But is there anything that we've missed, or a final piece of advice that you would want to share?
Just do nothing. Just let them be. We get people on the grooming, ringing up the day after they've picked up a dog, going, it smells. Can we bring it to wash? It's like, no. I think do as little as possible. Just let them decompress, and they all need different periods of time to decompress. It is a really weird journey for them because they don't understand. So just give them time and don't put pressure on them, because you just have to think about what they've been through. Just curb your life for a while when you get them, because it's so worth it. It's so worth it for getting a happy doggy at the end of it.
And finally, what impact has Theo had on you personally over the past year?
I think what you say, your name, all dogs are good. I love that. I haven't got a German Pointer now. I've got 2 dogs and I don't have a German Pointer. And I used to be that person that's my breed. But actually, they're all my breed, really. We have dogs that come through the shop all the time. Sometimes the most surprising breed is a dog that I've fallen in love with. I'm not pointerist anymore. I do love my German Pointers. Absolutely love them. But I'm far less attached. I'm attached to dogs, not a specific breed. I think a big lesson has been around a correct fitting harness, because boy, oh boy, I mean, I believe that. And we talked about equipment, and we don't stock a lot of the stuff that I feel is wrong. But boy, I've never challenged a harness the way I did with him, because he was pulling, he was lunging, spinning. I mean, he still does a bit of spinning every now and then, and he's never choked on his harness. So a really good fitting Y-shaped harness. I believed in it before, but now it's been proved to me, because my other dogs, they pull sometimes when they see a squirrel, they see this or they see that, but he really pushes it and he's never choked, which is really important, because he could have really hurt himself, the strength he has and the way he was pulling. So really good, well-fitting harness, I would say, is really important, because I would have been stressed if he was choking every time he was doing all that stuff. A good long lead, I would say, is at minimum 3 meters. Leather gloves when you start, because boy, did they save my hands. You don't need a lot of stuff. I think the most important, really good fitting Y-shaped harness that doesn't put any pressure on the soft tissue. And yeah, that's it really.
And if people want to learn more about you and your work, where can they find you?
www.woofstokitties.com. We've got an online shop, blogs, all sorts of stuff going on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming along and talking about Theo. Can't wait to meet him one day.
Yeah, you will.
But yeah, I think there's some very, very useful things that people can take away. So thank you so much for your time.
Lovely to talk about my boy. Thank you, Harriet. That was really lovely.
Thanks for listening to the That Dog podcast, hosted and produced by me, Harriet Alexander of All Dogs Are Good. You can find out more about my work by visiting alldogsaregood.com. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favourite platform. And if you enjoyed the show and want to hear more, leave a review. It really does help the podcast. And now it's time to go and learn from your dog.